What is up, duelists? Welcome back to War League Wednesdays. We are going into week 9 of the GOAT Format War League. And these are the standings heading into that week. So very late into the regular season, as I mentioned last time. So the playoff picture really starting to solidify here. You can see top of the blue conference is Bomb Squad with a whopping 7-1 record, best out of any team in the league. Bones Generation heading up the red conference as well with Nemesis right on their tail. Really just a potential bye week victory here for Nemesis, separating the two teams at the top of the standing. And I know we've done a lot of blue conference recently, but I want to continue to stay up there because we've just been getting banger matches between these three teams at the top of the standings. The Buck Catchers were on a bye here in week 9, but we did get a matchup between the other two teams in the top 3. So Bomb Squad trying to keep their spot at the top of the table against Challengers Master of Oz with a very respectable 5-3 record. Now, in terms of matches here, there are two. There was a little bit of squad rotation this week from Bomb Squad. I think at this point they're probably pretty certain of a playoff berth, at least with this 7-1 record. So really just fighting for seeding at this point. So they subbed in some new players. However, we did see a pretty interesting matchup between two players with solid records here. This week we've got Oz Frog, aka Envoy of Chaos, who has a 4-3 record going into week 9, versus Tupale, aka BIF-IlsigPanico. I'm just going to call him Panico, or Tupale, probably. But they have a 5-2 record, so both winning records so far through the 7 weeks that both of them have played, and should be an interesting match. So now, through the first 7 weeks here, Envoy of Chaos has shown us 2 different decks. They seem to mostly be playing their own interesting take on Chaos Turbo, which I'll show you in a second. But they did take a brief hiatus middle of the season to swap over to a couple games on what I'm going to call Soul Control. It's basically GOAT Control, but running Soul Exchange and some tribute monsters like the Monarchs and Jinzo to help control the board that way and give them a little bit of extra removal. Soul Exchange also useful because you can use it to tribute your opponent's monsters for Metamorphosis as well, as long as the monsters face up, which is pretty cool. And we'll take a look at both of those sample deck lists in a little bit. Panico is a warrior one trick. They've played that all 7 weeks that they have played so far, to a respectable, as I mentioned before, 5-2 record. Both players started off really hot. They both went 3-0 through their first 3 weeks that they played, and then kind of cooled off a little bit. I believe Panico is 2-2 in the last 4 weeks, whereas Ozfrog is 1-3 in the last 4 weeks. So both players, like I just said, off to a hot start, but have kind of cooled down a little bit. So both trying to get back into the dub column here and help their respective teams fight for solid berth in the playoffs. So here, I guess we'll start off with Panico's list. Like I mentioned, they have been playing Warrior all 7 weeks that they've played so far, and it honestly seems like a relatively standard list to me. They definitely have been tweaking some stuff. In the main deck, the one interesting callouts that I've seen, there's a main deck Mind Control without any spies in the main deck. There are spies coming out of the side, so that's a little bit interesting. Normally, if you're running main deck Minecon, you probably want the spies to go with it as well, so you have a little bit more profitable targets. But at least they're running the spies in the side deck to come in against like Turbo to get you some more Minecon targets. They're playing a single Magician of Faith in the main, which is something a lot of Warrior players do. Sure, it gives the opponent a knock target when they wouldn't normally have it, but if you're Warrior and you get your own Faith knocked, and then the Turbo player or whoever loses all of their faiths, that's also honestly probably fine for Warrior, which is why often you'll see like a singleton Magician of Faith in Warrior lists. If it resolves, that's just awesome, and you can regrab Trinity. If it doesn't resolve and gets knocked, then that's also kind of good. Takes some lights out of the opponent's deck and gives them, or removes one of their like strongest late game cards as well. Side deck here is pretty interesting. I do want to call out, I don't expect to see this here, but week 1, when they were playing against a Warrior player, we did see them go into a little bit of like a Warrior GOAT control smokescreen, where they brought in Metamorphoses and Scapegoats. And they did win that match, but we haven't seen that strategy. They've played Turbo several times since then. I believe they're, checking my notes here, they're 4-1 in the Turbo matchup so far, so very, very solid there. And they only employed that GOAT control smokescreen in week 1, and we haven't seen it since. So ever since then, they've done kind of the standard Warrior siding strategy against Turbo, where we saw the Spies come in, we saw Mobius, we saw Smashing Grounds, we we saw Jing Shen Hu, stuff like that. We also saw kind of a newer tech in the Warrior versus Turbo side deck arms race. DD Assailant, I think, is a pretty cool one. It does the same thing that Zombira does against Turbo Zombiras, where it just like gets you a monster that trades 1-for-1 with your opponent's Zombira, which is really nice. But it can actually attack your opponent directly, so it still allows you to be aggressive if you happen to draw it when your opponent doesn't have Zombira, which is the big kind of weakness of siding in Zombira as the warrior player to answer the opponent's Zombira, is it's just not a very good offensive card, right? But other than that, relatively standard stuff. They played a wide variety of matchups. Their 2 losses were in the Turbo matchup, like I said, although they were very positive in that matchup overall, 4-1. And the other match that they lost was against a Burn player, just FYI. Now moving over to Envoy of Chaos. Gotta scroll here. So like I said, they've played basically 2 different archetypes so far, and they have a very, very unique take on Chaos Turbo. Definitely, as you can see here, I have more than 40 cards in the main deck. They played this 5 out of the 7 weeks, and there's definitely been some tweaking going on. But a couple of the cards that I have seen pretty much every week is actually, notably, their main decking what I believe is a single copy of Return from the Different Dimension. So this is not a Chaos Return list. It's basically just normal Turbo if you just look at the monster and spell lineup. Just standard Turbo for the most part. Teching a Return in the spot that normally like Upstart Goblin would go. I have never seen Envoy of Chaos resolve a single Upstart Goblin through 7 weeks of gameplay, even when they were on the other deck as well. So it just seems to not be a fan of this. And I think not gifting your opponent life points can make sense when you're trying to go for like big alpha strikes with Return. So there's a little bit of synergy there. Most weeks they were on Phoenix Wing Windblast. So we do have a Windblast enjoyer here. However, in their very last match, I believe in week 7, right before their bye in week 8, they did swap over to the Raigeki breaks, though they still ended up losing, I believe, in a Turbo Mirror there. So seems to be okay in both of those matchup or with both of those card selections. Leans towards Windblast, but more recently has been on the Raigeki break train. A couple other interesting pieces in the main deck. Mind Crush is something I have seen them play very frequently, although I have never seen it actually resolve and do anything. It's just something I've seen several times. And then out of the side, they really like to bring in Spell Shield type 8 as basically a counter to Knock or Mindcon, which I actually have seen them use to decent effectiveness just to protect their sets. So wouldn't be surprised if they choose to go for this their own Chaos Turbo take to see that come through. And then we also saw them one time in a Chaos Control matchup actually side in to a Chaos Control smokescreen with Scapegoat and Creature Swap. I guess the logic being there, if you know your opponent is on Creature Swap, you can side in your Scapegoats to make that a lot worse, which is an interesting take that you don't always see, but definitely something you can do. Now, we actually haven't seen Envoy of Chaos play against a Warrior player yet, so I'm not sure if the Scapegoats are part of the anti-Warrior sort of play, or if they even have that in the side deck most weeks, because I only saw it once. But could be an option if we, if they take this Chaos Turbo list and we assume Il Panico is on Warrior like they are on every week. I'd be interested to see if Envoy of Chaos is on the Scapegoat kind of Chaos Control smokescreen game plan, or if they're just doing like Zombira, Solemn, Saku, the standard Turbo side. Would be interesting to see. And yeah, so as mentioned, this is the deck that they have played most weeks here, 5 out of the 7 weeks that they've played. They are 3-2 on the deck. Losses are once in the mirror and once against Chaos Control, but overall positive with the deck. They did take a brief hiatus mid-season, like I mentioned, to swap over to this sort of Soul Control list, which, like I said, is kind of Goat Control, but teching one or more copies of Soul Exchange, as well as, the Monarchs to kind of make use of it. So main deck Thestalos, Zaborg, and Mobius, which is pretty cool, as well as Jinzo, who's not a Monarch, but is a tribute monster. And then plays a bunch of sticky, normal summonable monsters to kind of make that, to give you more tribute fodder anyway. So like Mystic Tomatoes, Sangan, Spirit Reaper, Triple Spy, just to make sure you're always going to have a monster on board to tribute, is kind of the idea there. Out of the side deck, so the 2 weeks that they played, one time they played against Burn, which is why you see these Mystic Walks, Mobius, stuff like that came in, as well as Royal Decree. This is a very trap-light deck. They are running at least one copy of Trap Dust Shoot in the main, but definitely can see those come out depending on the list to bring in that Royal Decree. But besides that, kind of standard Go control stuff for the most part, I would say. Cool, so let's hop into it. As mentioned, we kind of expect Panico to be on Warrior here, so interested to see what Envoy would be bringing to the table. We're going to be watching it from their POV, and it looks like Panico will be able to go first. So opening hand here is pretty monster clogged for Envoy, but still has the draw for turn, so not the end of the world. Going to go normal summon Kaiku here out of Panico, so definitely looking like Warrior here, if that's going to be your turn 1 play, especially if you're going to set 4. Yeah, Kaiku set 4 pass makes me think, there's no reason to suspect they're not just bringing Warrior for the 8th week in a row, of course. And so it looks like here, Envoy of Chaos, Ozfrog, whatever you want to call them, did bring their Chaos Turbo deck here as well. So just a brief vacation to that soul control sort of list, and is back on their comfort pick, which seems to be this unique Chaos Turbo list. So I'm going to draw for turn, finding another monster here into Koichi. So nothing really to get over this Kaiku at the moment. I mean, you could go Breaker, try to beat over it, and then pop a back row, but that seems pretty bad. It feels too early to go for Tribe, especially when the Kaiku's not actually doing too much. So I feel like the play is probably just set to Koichi Pass. That seems pretty fine to me. Oh, we are going to get hit with Trap Dust Shoot, though, so I spoke too soon. We'll see if they're allowed to keep the Koichi or not. Breaker is going to be sent back. Okay. So, the read here is, of course, that there's got to be at least one Solemn Judgment in the back. That's a standard card in Warrior, but especially when they go set 4 turn 1, they almost definitely have a Solemn. So likely sending back the Breaker so that, they don't risk the 1 in 3 or greater chance of hitting that Solemn, which makes sense. And I feel like the play hasn't changed. I feel you probably just go set to Koichi Pass. No reason to get cute. You could consider baiting with Set Sinister, but you really want to keep that in hand because you have Tribe, so you want to actually have a good discard outlet. I don't think there's any point in, trading Kaikus right now or anything like that. Let's just go set to Koichi and go from there. Okay, we're actually just going to go for the Tribe play, though. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess their list, this Turbo list, is a little bit more aggressive than your standard Turbo list because it is trying to set up for return plays later on. So actually hitting in for a little bit of damage every now and then is pretty solid. I feel like the Koichi play is probably fine most of the time. Just kind of a general good start. And I feel like saving Tribe against Warrior is pretty good because usually you can get good value out of it later. But, I don't play Return in my own Turbo list, so maybe there's value in going a little bit more aggressive here than you would normally think. Definitely let me know what you guys think in the comments here about this turn 1 play. Tribe going to come down, use Prio, call Spellcaster, kill the Kaiku, then try to poke in for 16. I think that's fine. The thing with this is that Tribe on its own is just very, very weak to most monsters in the Warrior list. So sure, you got a nice little +1 here, but you're about to just get plussed on the swing back. So it's not really like you gain too much advantage off of this. So I'm assuming this will just get got right now. Yeah, and we're just going to have to call the Haunted come through. And this is just kind of pretty tragic at this point, right? Because now your Tribe's going to get beaten over, your Serpent will get banished, and you basically just got plussed out of this interaction, actually, because you're not going to be able to get the Sinister back in hand. Yeah, the fact that this loses to not only just second Kaiku, which we know Panico runs, but also Premature or Call of the Haunted, or really, I mean, even Blade Knight isn't great in this scenario, right? Seemed like we could have been a little bit more patient with our Tribe here at this point in time. Kaiku's going to come back, though, and we have Donzalug to add insult to injury as well. So I think this will be a quick game 1 from what it looks like. Kaiku will go ahead, kill that Tribe, banish the Serp. We get hit for 14 from the Donzalug, and now we're going to lose a card from our hand as well. It hits it a Koichi too, which sucks. And yeah, we're just very much on the back foot. We draw Thunder Dragon for turn, which is nice, but even if it gets Light Dark Engrave, we can't summon our Sork right now because Kaiku's on the board. So I feel like the play just has to be Kaiku, attempt to beat over the Donzalug, and then main phase 2, fire off the Thunder Dragon, probably. I mean, you can even go main phase 1 Thunder Dragon, I guess, in case you're worried about, some sort of attack boosting card in the Donzalug, although that doesn't seem pretty likely. Now, going Thunder Dragon here is risky because it plays into another copy of Trap Dust Shoot, and I'm sure Panico would love to send back our other Kaiku, or our Kaiku, I should say, to keep their Donzalug on board. So, I mean, yeah, because it's not like you were ever going to not summon the Kaiku this turn. So you might as well just do it first and even save the intel. Or you can just save the intel of what card you drew until main phase 2 as well, and keep Panico guessing for a little bit longer. So, not a huge fan of this sequencing here. Not going to get punished by a Dust Shoot, but you did just give away information for minimal reason. Kaiku's going to come down. This is going to get solemned, which is interesting. But, you know, I think Panico, recognizing that if their Kaiku gets answered at any point, Sword can come down and could be a problem. So trying to just remove any possible thing that can deal with this Kaiku definitely makes sense to me. And Panico is just in an insane position now. Going to be able to beat in, take us off Light Dark with the Kaiku, and rip out another card with the Donzalug. And we are not long for this world, I don't think. Ninja Grandmaster adding insult to injury. Totally fine. Hitting the hand first. I like the sequencing there. Gets them another choice of something to banish with the Kaiku. Get in for 18. Just banish both the darks at this point. Yeah, definitely makes sense. And we take another 18 from the Ninja Grandmaster, and Panico gets to pass with lethal on board. We draw into Book of Moon. Okay, so we do... Well, I guess no, we don't have Dark Engrave anymore, though, thanks to Kaiku. No Dark in hand except for the Sork that we want to try and summon. So I guess it's just set book pass and lose. Seems like the play. There's an argument to not even setting the book here and just conceding. Right. I mean, I guess you could make Panico play weird if they worried about it being a Mirror Force or something. But now that the MST comes down, I think you just concede right now so they don't know that you're on book. The scouting would have revealed that Envoy was on main deck book. I think they played that pretty much every week that they were on Turbo. But no reason to like let them know. You know what I mean? Yeah, just concede there. Okay. And we will go to game 2, and I'm very interested to see what Envoy's anti-warrior side deck plan is, because we haven't gotten to see that at all this War League yet. And it looks like they are on the Chaos Control smokescreen. We see the Metamorphosis here in the opening hand. So keeping that Scapegoat meta, maybe creature swap sort of play alive here. And that is their choice of configuration against Warrior. And we'll see how it will deal with this matchup. So now this is a very good opening hand, though. TD and Duo in the opener is really nice. Sakuretsu is some nice side deck tech that you're happy to see. Sangan gives us a good opening play. We've got Light Dark, at least in hand, and soon to be half Engrave for the Sork. And we can set up Light Dark Engrave pretty easily with maybe Tribute Summon over Sangan, or like meta the Sangan, something like that. Really good options here. Plus the Duo is just icing on the cake. So we're going to fire off this Duo, activate Thunder Dragon. And then I personally like summon Sangan here. It's our only dark right now, so I really, really don't want it to get knocked. So I don't want to set it. See what ends up getting hit with this Duo, though. Gonna snag Sinister Serpent. That's a little bit unfortunate, and that's kind of interesting out of Panico here. I don't believe I saw them play Sinister at all. So are they potentially back on their Goat Control side deck stuff, potentially, that we saw only in week 1? That could be interesting. They're going to discard Kaiku here as well. So Duo is just getting a 1-for-1 here, but now we know Sinister exists, which is interesting. Be cool to see what Panico is planning on doing with that little guy. I don't think it changes the play at all. I still think we go Thunder Dragon, normal Sangan, set the Saku, pass. And still a solid opening here for Envoy for sure. We're going to set the Sangan, though. Yeah, not a huge fan of that. When it's your only dark, and without this Sangan around, your hand does basically nothing. So I would really like to protect it here. You might not get punished for it, but I don't think there's any reason to risk it, basically. Now there is the upside. It could like bait out a Minecon or something, which we do know if you scouted, Panico does play often in the main deck as well. So you could get rewarded for the set Sangan, but I feel like the reward of your baiting out a Minecon is worse than... Right? Because the Turbo versus Warrior matchup is one of those matchups where Turbo needs to have as many live cards as possible, right? And basically your entire hand is reliant on this Sangan sticking around. So even if there is possible upside by baiting out a Minecon here, it feels very much not worth it to me to risk it when if we lose the Sangan, our whole hand does like literally nothing. You know what I mean? We'll see if we get punished for it though. Serp goes back to hand, sure. It's just gonna be Breaker though, so we're gonna get Breaker, pop the Saku, and then I assume they're gonna try and beat over the Sangan, so we don't get punished for it entirely. Probably you grab Sinister Serpent here, so you have fodder for your Metamorphosis. Is kind of my feeling. Tsukiyomi is a good option, especially this early against Warrior, but I feel like when you have the meta in hand, Suk is better, and it can also be tribute fodder for the TDs later on down the line. Although I don't really like that play against Warrior, but I think it's more the meta choice. Yeah. Serpent makes sense. And then Panico is going to go ahead and add a singleton back row. So we didn't get hit with, or so we could get hit with shoot here, which would kind of suck because Sork is live. We draw Tribe for turn, which is fine. We at least have the discard fodder for it. I feel like we just slam the Sork, right? Put it in attack position. Go from there. We can even go Sork, banish the Breaker, and then if we really want, we can meta into Ryu Senshi. That's a potential play. We know Warrior likes to run lots of traps, so Ryu Senshi could actually be a nice big boy here. Now, it's not the strongest monster stat-wise, like it, so that could be a little bit risky. And especially because we have the Serpent to go with the meta, maybe we just hold back on that. I don't like going for the Tribe play right now. That doesn't seem super good. It's probably just Sork, banish the BLS, and then stick around and be annoying. Seems like the play here. Yeah, and that's what we're going to do. That definitely makes sense to me. Prio, banish the BLS, pass turn. Feels good. There's a world where you bluff set the meta here, but I feel like you have a lot of options of good meta targets at this point. But there's definitely a world where maybe if we can start pressuring for damage, meta into Ryu Senshi is live. There is a world where we summon Thunder Dragon and then can go into Dark Balter maybe, which could be nice, or just keeping it around. Yeah, and we haven't seen like any Dust Tornadoes or MSTs yet. Breaker is gone, but there's still plenty of other back removal in Warrior that I think holding the meta in hand here is just kind of better. Panico is going to go set a monster pass. We draw Pot of Greed, which is insane. Going to fire that off for sure. Draw into Saku and Dust Tornado, which isn't like amazing draws, but I think this is fine. Now, are there any set monsters that we're worried about from Warrior? Now, we do know sometimes they like to side deck Morphing Jar, although we haven't seen them out of Panico at all so far. So what flips do they play? They play Magician of Faith, which would be fine. I don't care about that. We know Serpent was in hand, so it could just be Serpent. We know they play Gravekeeper Spy, but Sork is pretty good into Gravekeeper Spy. And we have Tribe to clean them up as well. So I almost would just like Sork attack the set, see what it is, and then evaluate from there. That doesn't seem like if they have Saku, sure, that's like annoying, but it's not like the end of the world. I wouldn't want to play into Mirror Force or Torrential here. If they have Saku, they have Saku, and like we already kind of plussed off this Sork, so it's not a big deal. So it's probably just poke in here. I guess if you read that the set is Sinister Serpent, you could go like normal Sinister Attack and beat in for 23. But we do know that Panico does like to play lots of flips post side, so there is a good chance that this is just a Gravekeeper Spy. In which case, I don't really feel like running my Serpent into that. So it's probably just attacking with the Sork. Is there... You could maybe go Serp meta steal it, but I feel like that's not worth it. Like, if you're going to do that, you want it to be something that's going to be... Like, you're not super... If it's Spy, you don't really care, because Sork and Tribe are going to deal with that really easily. It's not going to be Faith, because there's no targets in Grave. So... You don't really care about this flip monster resolving at this point, based on what we know Panico tends to play. So I don't think we need to go for the meta play just yet. We'll save that until we can like steal an actual beater and then can pressure the opponent with the Thousand Eyes. So I think it's just poking with the Sork. We're actually just gonna set a couple back row. Okay, this is a play I don't actually hate. Saying, you know what, I'm not gonna risk my Sork by running into a potential Sakuretsu armor. And I don't actually care about any of your flip monsters, right? But there's nothing that this set could be, based on what we know Panico has, that we actually care about it. So if we want to set up for an attack Sork later, we can just wait until we can Dust Tornado the back row and make the play a little bit safer. Now, you could go for set Sinister here. That doesn't seem terrible. Especially because we already tested for knock, and they just beat into our Sangin with the breaker. So there is a world where you go set Sinister to like maybe go for Thunder Dragon into meta for or not Ryusenshi, but Dark Balter later. I kind of like that. I think it's pretty marginal though. I can definitely understand holding it in hand, keeping it safe for your tribe and things like that. And for like a potential meta down the line. But I feel like we're in a good position to like get aggressive soon. That's kind of what we're setting up for. So I like having the option to add more damage to the board relatively easily that we would get by setting the Sinister. Your mileage may vary, though, of course. Still think we're in a decent spot either way, though. Panico is going to go Exiled Force, kill our Sork. Bit of a bummer, but Warrior's allowed to play cards. They didn't flip this up, so the read is Sinister pretty much exactly right. It's probably not going to be Faith. Any monster will flip up there and attack us if it actually has attack. Like if it was Spy, they're going to flip and attack us. So it pretty much has to be Serpent at this point, right? So good that we didn't really like freak out and do anything crazy there. We draw a Raigeki break for turn. So looks like Envoy has been completely converted away from the Wind Blast angle. I mean, I guess if you're expecting to play against potentially a Warrior player here, you don't really want to be bringing Wind Blast. So maybe it was just a little bit of an optimization, and they're still part of the Wind Blast fan club. But this 2 weeks in a row that they made that break instead of Wind Blast, so maybe they've just fully converted. So now we have another use for our Sinister Serpent here, which is kind of funny. But I feel like our hand just doesn't really do too much, right? So we know the set is almost always going to be Sinister. Do we just set our own Sinister like we could have last turn? That kind of feels fine. Or do we just set Raigeki Break Pass and just play like a control deck? It's probably just set Raigeki Break Pass. No need to get crazy just yet. If this game drags out and gets more complicated, that favors us, so seems fine. Probably just set RB Pass. And that's what we do. I like that. Panico is going to go Tribute for Mobius. Okay, so that's cute. So we know Panico does like their Mobius here into the Turbo matchup. This is a bit of a bummer, depending... Well, I guess depending on what they hit, we might not... We might just be fine and we can, like, RB the Mobius, Chain Dust on one of their back row. So we'll see what the Mobius hits here. No negate. We're going to hit the best two, so unfortunate for Panico, they missed the one that would actually help them get some advantage, and now we can just chain RB, pop the Mobius, and then go Dust Tornado on a back row, and then we can just like have Saku ready for like a Kaiku or something. So this is pretty nice. This worked out well. Won this coin flip, basically. Pretty happy about that. I haven't been tracking the back row, but the middle one has been set for a while. It's been set since turn 1, so it's unlikely to be a chainable at this point, so I like choosing that one. And then, yeah, you're just going to RB the Mobius. Yeah, nice play. And you can keep your Saku for something down the line. Call the Haunted is a good card to have Saku against. And yeah, as mentioned, as designed, we get to protect our Sinister Serpent and keep our Dark Engrave, thanks to this Saku. So this actually worked out really well for us, thanks to us getting a little bit lucky on those back row hits. And now we're just in a solid spot. They're going to set a back row pass. I don't care too much about it, especially with Top Deck Breaker. Just go Slam Breaker, pop it, and get in for 16. Seems like the play to me. We hit a Scapegoat. So I was correct. Panico, I think the Sinister Serpent kind of gave it away, but we did see way back in week 1 in the scouting that they were at least testing a little bit of Goat Control side deck action for the Turbo matchup, which I'm not sure how justifiable it is, but it can at least catch the opponent off guard. It'll probably give Envoy something to think about going into a potential game 3 if they're able to win this one. But at this point, I mean, we have Tribe in hand, right? So we're about to just blow them up. We're going to get rewarded for holding this Tribe for a couple turns. And yeah, we'll just... I mean, you could even argue that you just leave all the goats on board and not even kill them with a breaker. Why give them the extra monster zone, maybe? In case they have, like, premature or something. Or if they can set up for, like, a chaos play. And then we can just... Next turn, we can go summon Tribe, kill everything. That seems fine. Actually, yeah. I feel like we probably just keep all the tokens on board. I think it's marginal if you kill one, but I feel like it's probably slightly better to leave them all on board and just clean them up with the tribe next turn. Kind of my thought. Panico can regrab that serpent. Sure. They're gonna go normal summon Blade Knight. Okay. So they can set something. All right, so we know the hand is Serp. They can kill our breaker, but that's not the end of the world because we're about to just clean house with our tribe. We draw Upstart Goblin. Oh, interesting. So either I just had like a insane statistical anomaly and never saw Envoy draw a single Upstart Goblin through the first or for the 5 weeks that they played this while I was scouting, or they switched up their deck a little bit here and now are actually running Upstarts. Maybe expecting. I would be interested to see if they're playing the Return here, because most of the time they're main decking that single teched copy of Return from the Different Dimension, which I figured was kind of an anti-synergy with the Upstart Goblin. So maybe the read was for this week. Return isn't that great against Warrior. Like, you don't want to actually be the aggressive deck. You want to lean into your control side of things more, so the extra life points don't matter as much. So maybe expecting something like this to come through, and Envoy tweaked up their deck a little bit and is running Upstarts now. I think you definitely just fire this off. Yeah, no reason not to. Drawn to another copy of Meta, which is interesting. And now you have the choice. I mean, I feel like you probably just want to go normal tribe, Prio Call Warrior, because I don't think you really care too much about the Go tokens. And then, assuming that goes through, you can always just go Tribe Call Beast, discard a Thunder Dragon to clear out the tokens. Prio 1 is getting rid of the Blade Knight, of course, so I like that play. You could also go like meta into Thousand Eyes, suck the Blade Knight in, but I don't think that really does too much if it's not pressuring the opponent's life points. I'd rather just kill the board this turn, right? Yes, we're gonna go Tribe, call Warrior first, I think. Yep, makes sense. They do have Light Dark Engrave, which could be spooky, but I think this is the play regardless. And now you can discard Thunder Dragon, call Beast. Nice play. And poke in for 16. Why not? And we're in a solid spot. We dealt with that Scapegoat really nicely. And in a pretty solid spot. Hand isn't the best you'll ever see. But maybe we'll have... we have Serpent. I guess it's pretty good. We have Thunder Dragon as potential discard fodder for the tribe. Serpent as potential discard fodder for the tribe. And tribute fodder for both of these copies of Metamorphoses. So things are looking pretty good. Panico just going to set a monster pass. Very good chance that that's Serpent, of course. But could be Spy. If it's Spy, I don't care. Right? We draw Faith Return, which is insane. So it's just going to be Tribe beat in. We already tested the back row for Saku, so it's not going to be that. It's just going to be Tribe attack, set Faith pass, grab the Serpent, of course, and standby, and then go from there. Yep. I like this play. It's Serpent, but who cares? Keep it off the board. Why not? They could be running meta, could be running creature swap, so good to keep monsters off the field if we can. And let's just go ahead and set Magician of Faith. Can also bluff set. Yeah, the meta there. I think that's fine. You have a backup one. Chaos is live, so it's good to give him something to think about. So yeah, I like that bluff set. Seems good. And Envoy has been playing this game quite well so far, I think. Gonna hit end phase, MST, pop our meta, but that isn't the end of the world. We have a second one. And we have Faith coming through, hopefully soon anyway. They're going to knock the Faith, which is a bit of a bummer. We lose ours. Panico loses theirs. Kind of sucks, but at least we already have a Light Engrave, so not the end of the world. And they're just going to go ahead and set something in the way. Pass. We draw Jinzo for turn. Wow, okay. So side deck Jinzo against Warrior. That is not something I was expecting, but is pretty cool. Do we get spicy? Do we go like meta, suck in the set, tribute for Jinzo? And start being in for 4k a turn? That doesn't seem terrible. So now once again, the sets are probably... it could be like DD Warrior Lady maybe or something, but it's probably Serpent. Could be a Spy, but either way we want to just poke it with the tribe. I would like to start actually applying some damage to the opponent at some point. So we probably set the Sinister alongside this to maybe go tribute for Thunder Dragon at some point. Or do we just... The thing is that that's two 1600 beaters that are pretty weak to stuff that Panico can draw. So I don't really like the idea of just going like Tribe Thunder Dragon pass. That seems like a pretty weak board, even if we bluff set the second meta. That doesn't seem great. I don't think we want to blow meta for Thousand Eyes just yet. Yeah, because like it's too good of a chance that this is just the Serpent set. So maybe we just go normal Serpent, poke the set, beat in for 16. That seems kind of nice. Maybe that's the play. Just so we're at least making a little bit of progress here. Yeah, and that's what they're going to go for. I like this play. Sure, we can see that it's the Serpent. I try not to. I try to like shield my eyes from the top row. I do need to figure out. Shout out to Karam, by the way, sent me a script to do that. I've been too lazy to actually get it set up to block the stats of the monsters in the replays when they're face down. But I think that's almost always going to be Sinister Serpent there. So this play is pretty safe regardless. We get to hit in for 16, make a little bit of progress. You can also go ahead bluff set the meta if you want. Maybe at this point. Now we're getting to the point where it actually would be nice to keep around. So maybe not. Panico now is at least under some pressure. They're going to go set a monster, set a back row pass. We draw BLS for turn, which is insane. I don't really want to play into Torrential, though. That doesn't seem great. So we probably just go for the same exact play. Or no, we're going to go Tribute the Serpent for Jinzo. And then we don't even care if they have a back row set. Right. Yeah, let's go Tribute Serpent for Jinzo. Oh, and then do we just then summon BLS and win the game? Right? That seems pretty good. Because assuming the set is Sinister, which is a good chance it is, we do 3,000, 54, 16. Yeah. So it's going to be Tribute Summon over the Serpent for Jinzo, summon BLS and go for game, and they don't really have anything that they can stop that. I mean, maybe Scapegoat, but if they have to blow Scapegoat to prevent lethal there, I don't really care. So let's go for it. Yep. Okay, we're playing a little bit safe, not going for the big OTK. It's a little bit safer, I guess makes us a little bit less susceptible to like a Snatch Steal. But I feel like they would need to have exactly like Snatch plus Scapegoat. Now, I guess Panico has been holding a card in hand for quite some time. So there is a decent chance that they actually have Snatch, because like what else are you really holding for forever? You know what I mean? Could maybe be another Monarch. We do know Panico. Or no, I've never seen two Mobius out of Panico, I don't think. But that doesn't mean that they're not running that. But so could be a Tribute monster in hand. Could be Snatch Steal. So I think there's merit to playing around Goats plus Snatch here, potentially. A little bit too cowardly for my blood. No shade meant. But I think there's merits to it. This seems fine. And yeah, we can pass. Jinzo is keeping us nice and safe. And if they do have Snatch Steal, it's not the end of the world, right? Let's see. They're going to go Rhoda for Ninja Grandmaster. Interesting. Why would they do that? They already have a Light Engrave. Are they just trying to kill the tribe? Okay, they're going to try and kill the tribe. Sure. And now Jinzo is still on the board, so now we just go BLS for game? Probably. Don't see any reason not to. There comes the big boy, and go for game. They do have Book of Moon, which is annoying, but we can kill the Ninja Grandmaster, so who really cares? In main phase 2, you probably set Serpent Pass. Maybe you just keep it in hand in case they have knock. If they knock, who really cares? I mean, at this point, the game is just kind of won. BLS being face down is actually pretty nice, because Snatch on Jinzo doesn't kill it, and it itself is safe from Snatch Steal. So yeah, do we set Serpent or do we not? I don't think it really matters. What could they have to do stuff? Like no matter what they have, we just kind of win. Maybe, I guess if they have like Premature for Exiled, kill BLS, we would want the Serpent on board to like Tribute Summon for Thunder Dragon for game. So maybe we just set the Serpent in case we need the extra damage. Seems like a decent play. We're just gonna bluff set the meta. That's fine too. I don't think it's all kind of marginal at this point. They have Minecon to answer the BLS. Sure. Do they banish the Jinzo and then give us back our BLS? Looks like they will. That's interesting. Okay. We have Call of the Haunted. Ooh, interesting. So that's a spicy little pickup here. I guess this Chaos Control smokescreen also calls for some Call of the Haunted action. Haven't seen that out of Envoy at all, so that's pretty interesting. Now, surely they only banish the Jinzo if they have an out to this BLS, right? But how much do we care if they have an out to this BLS? I mean, it could be Saku. Things are a little bit awkward, but we have Call of the Haunted to bring back BLS if it is like Saku later on. So it's probably just poke in with BLS. If they answer it, it's whatever, and we can just go set call, set cert, pass. Or even normal summons on Byra pass. Seems fine. It is the Saku, sure. And then, yeah, I feel like we probably go set Serpent. Summons on Byra is fine too. It probably doesn't matter. This is all just kind of garbage time, it feels like. Graceful out of Panico, though. They have that Serpent to discard, as well as DD Warrior Lady, which is a nice out to our Zanbira. See what they kept. They kept a Tsukuyomi. Interesting. Out of the side of the Warrior list, but I guess that's part of their Goat Control smokescreen. This will kill our Zanbira, which, like, who cares? Sure. They have the back row. We draw another Zanbira for turn. So now we just... Oh, unfortunately our Jinzo is banished, so we can't call it. But I feel like we just go call on BLS and try and win the game. All right. Seems pretty good. Let's go for it. And there we go. Yeah. Dragged out a little bit longer than probably needed to be, but that was really not in doubt for a while there. And we have a pretty interesting side deck game going in here now. Very much did not expect Panico to actually still be on this Goat Control smokescreen stuff. And it didn't really work out too well here. I wonder if... Yeah, I mean, I guess the Chaos Control smokescreen out of... we just smokescreened into Control Mirror, funnily enough. But Envoy's plan all along, just because I've seen them side deck the Scapegoat stuff before, they seem to always be on this Scapegoat plan against aggro decks. So that's not too surprising. And so maybe Panico is trying to anticipate that and then go into control of their own and get a little bit of advantage there. But the cat's kind of out of the bag now. So do you stay with this Go Control configuration or you just go back to pure Warriors, especially because you get to go first in Game 3? Be interested to see what they choose to go for. I feel like regardless of what your opponent does, though, if you are Envoy of Chaos here, you still probably keep the Scapegoat stuff in. Worked out this game. I think Chaos Control has a decent matchup into Go Control regardless, especially the Warrior versions of it. And it's definitely, that's your plan against pure Warrior anyway, so you're going to want to keep it in case Panico goes back out of their smokescreen. So that would be what I would want to see here out of Envoy. We'll be going second here in Game 3, and we still see the Jinzo in hand. Okay, so it seems like they're still on at least a similar side deck plan. Panico opens Pot of Greed, which feels kind of bad. Then they're going to go T-set pass. Well, no, set a monster, set 4 pass, so that's pretty scary. We have Zanbira here. So yeah, keeping the same sort of config, it looks like. Yeah, Zanbira is still good against like the warrior-centric versions of Go Control, so it definitely makes sense to keep that in. We'll fire off Upstart. We'll see if we get to main phase 1. Sure. Fire off Upstart, reevaluate. Run to Tsukuyomi, which doesn't really do too much. Our hand is a little bit awkward. No lights for BLS. We do have Tribute for Jinzo eventually. Zanbira is kind of nice. I feel like we probably just go summon Zanbira pass. That seems pretty good. I don't really want to attack into 4 back row with our Zanbira, because if it dies, it's not really going to be super great. So yeah, I like this play. Cool. Panico has a wall staring them down. They're going to go book our Zanbira, though, and then beat over it with a Kaiku. And they're going to flip up Blade Knight as well, so they can go Blade Knight, kill the Zanbira. Kaiku get in and then banish it, which is a little bit annoying. Keeps our Dark out of the grave for the time being. But does get us some juicy Snatch Steal targets, right? Get in for 18. They set another back row here in main 2, powering up this Blade Knight to 2k, which means that now that is the Snatch Shield target if we were to so choose. Draw Graceful for a turn, which is insane, so we're definitely going to fire that one off. I wouldn't be surprised if this gets solemned, but it is going to be allowed. We draw into a lot of good stuff here, guys. Definitely discarding Serpent. And then I guess we probably discard the Jinzo, because I feel like it's not doing too much. We have Thunder Dragon to get a Light Engrave. Oh, or... Well, so here's the thing. We can't summon BLS. Or it's going to be awkward to summon BLS this turn. Because in order to do that, we would need to snatch the Kaiku. I guess we could soak the Kaiku to go for BLS as well, which is interesting. But then we would need to... I guess Jinzo is a dark, though. So maybe we just go discard Jinzo and Serp. I feel like we're pretty far away from summoning Serp, right? So I kind of like just discard... Or we're pretty far away from summoning Jinzo, so I kind of just like discarding it there. I don't really want to discard Sook. It just seems pretty good against Warrior generally. Spy, of course, also very good against Warrior. So if I want to get a Dark Engrave this turn, it's Jinzo's kind of the odd man out. Thunder Dragon gets the Light Engrave, and then how do we proceed from there? Do we want to... We could go attempt to Snatch Steal the Kaiku. I guess we pretty much know Solemn is set, though. So what makes this awkward is, like, I wouldn't want to Snatch the Kaiku and then have them just Solemn the BLS, and then we have the worst of the two targets to have Snatch Stealed. Now, we could just follow up with Tsukuyomi, flip down the Blade Knight, and Kaiku kill it, but if they have, like, Saku or something, or Mirror Force would be really tragic in that scenario. We're just in a really, really bad spot. So, I feel like I would rather go summon Sook, flip the Kaiku down, try to kill the Kaiku to bait out like a Saku or something. And then main phase 2, you can summon BLS, banish the Blade Knight. If they Solemn it, we at least have like Mirror Force. And then we can save the Snatch Steal till later. The other play, we could go Snatch a monster, tribute over it to summon Jinzo, which actually is kind of neat because it could really blank a lot of their stuff. And then assuming they have Solemn set right, BLS is going to be really valuable. Is that the play? And then we would, what, discard Serp and Sook, probably? Or we discard Serp and Spy. So that way, yeah, this way, basically I'm trying to figure out what's the way we have the most redundancies to be able to summon this BLS, right? Plan A can be Snatch a monster, debating which one, but we can Snatch one, tribute for Jinzo to turn off Solemn. We could, if they answer the Snatch, we can go Sook, set the Kaiku, and do that play that I said before. Sook, set the Kaiku, turn the floodgate off, try and kill it, and then go for BLS in main phase 2 or something. Yeah, so that seems like that gives us the most redundancies if we keep the Jinzo around. So I think we have to discard Serp and Spy here. This is a really, really complicated point, though, so I'm definitely interested to see what you guys at home would do in this scenario. But I kind of like my line of go for a Snatch Jinzo play, because I feel like that just will blow them out of the water pretty quickly if that resolves. And then we still have Sook and BLS as backups, even if that gets answered. Right? Now, the annoying thing is if we go Snatch and they just answer it, it's like now our Jinzo's stuck in hand. But I feel like the possibility of just really, really destroying their whole thing they got going on there by going for the Tribute Summon Jinzo is worth the risk of it rotting in hand. And it's not like we won't be able to summon it later on, guaranteed. But I feel like shooting for the stars here. So we're going to discard Serp. They're going to discard the Thunder Dragon and keep a Dark out of grave. Okay. This is quite interesting. Do you still just go for the Snatch, attempt to Tribute Summon Jinzo play? I feel like probably. Well, because now you can't summon BLS this turn. Unless you're, like, crashing Spy into something. I guess you could potentially get a Dark Engrave by going Sook set the Kaiku, beat in. If they Saku it, you get the Dark Engrave for main phase 2. But I feel like you want to lead out with the potential Snatch Jinzo play. That seems like the move. Snatch the Kaiku, they're going to Dust Tornado it, kind of as expected. Now you can go for Tsukuyomi on the Kaiku. Or no, but now you can't summon BLS, so Suku on the Kaiku actually isn't that great. Is it just set Spy Mirror Force? And that's the thing, yeah, this just feels really weak. Like, if they just have, like, Knock, and, like, they Solemn the Mirror Force, we're kind of screwed, because then we don't have a Dark Engrave. And our hand is just Sook, Jinzo, dead BLS. Yeah, because I feel like at this point, all we can really do is go Spy, Mirror Force, Pass. That just seems really passive when we could have done a lot of stuff this turn if we had the Dark Engrave already. We could go Sook, kill the Kaiku, but like if they have Saku, that doesn't do anything, and then we're just setting Mirror Force and passing, and that seems really bad. So yeah, I feel like we could have forced through this BLS, or at least made it really difficult for our opponent this turn, whereas now like we kind of limited our options to something really passive. It still might work. They're gonna go for the Sook on the Kaiku play. And then will it get through? It doesn't. We get Mirror Forced, and now we just have to set Mirror Force Pass and hope they play into it. Oh, okay, no. So I guess the idea was you can still do this. Yeah. Yeah, so I did this line was in mind, right? Where you go for this Sook on the face down, and then or you go for the Sook on the Kaiku, and then if they battle trap it, you get the Dark Engrave. But I feel like this was really, really reliant on our opponent having like these cards. I don't know. We do still end up getting a summon BLS, which is really nice. I guess who do you care about banishing more? Probably the Kaiku, I guess. That seems a little bit better. What if they just solemn this? It's like mid. Yeah, because now they solemn it, and now we just have to set Mirror Force Pass. Yeah. I mean, would my play have been that much different than this? If because they did have Battle Trap, Dust Tornado, Solemn set, plus an unknown. So my play, they would have Dust Tornaded the Snatch. I guess it's the same exact play. I guess we would have ended up in the same exact spot, except I would have had 2 Thunder Dragons in hand instead of this Spy. Which, okay, so maybe this is better. Because I guess you would probably rather have the Spy than the 2 Thunder Dragons. That seemed like a really, really interesting turn with lots of potential options. These were just 2 lines of many that were possible here. And it all kind of converged to something similar, I feel like. So maybe it didn't actually matter too much. But they just, yeah, Panico just kind of had everything, right? Now, we did eat through a bunch of their interaction, so the fact that when all is said and done, we have Spy Mirror Force left, this is actually kind of nice. Because Mirror Force might actually come in clutch here. Let's see, though. They're going to go flip summon Kaiku, attack in, we Mirror Force, and this works. Okay, so now we're in a decent spot. Okay, we draw Torrential for a turn, which is fine. Can re-grab the Serpent. I feel like we probably set Serpent Torrential here, so that we can plan on torrentialing something. We bait out any potential like knocks or anything before our Spy comes through. We're gonna just go straight for the Spy though. I feel like I would rather set the Serpent because I would like to use my torrential at some point without killing my own Spy. You know what I mean? But I think either set is fine. I would just lean towards setting Serpent there. And now they have knock. Sure. I would have liked to bake that out, of course. And then they go tribe, and we torrential the tribe, surely. Right? No, we're gonna let that go through. And we draw Saku for a turn. Okay, so it's just set Saku, set Serpent pass. Well, you can set up for a Jinzo at some point. That seems fine. See, I would have rather this be Spy, though. Right. No, Heavy Storm was a little bit scary. Or having not seen Heavy Storm was a little bit scary, but it's what it is. They go for Rhoda for DD Warrior Lady. Okay. And if they go this, now we just torrential. Okay, so we end up getting rewarded for holding torrential there. Yeah, I think maybe I was a little bit overeager to just torrential the tribe. Um, it's just scary because like you never know when you'll get an opportunity to torrential again. But we ended up getting paid off for it with a nice little +1 here. So it ended up working out. We can get back our Sinister. And we're just going to set that pass, I think. I guess we can set meta to player on top deck duo. That seems okay. But we are playing into Heavy Storm again, which doesn't feel that great, especially when meta is actually like a live card because we have Serp. So I guess would you rather play around duo or heavy here? I feel like you'd rather play around. I feel like I'd rather save my metamorphosis from the heavy. Because if we get hit by heavy, that kind of blows, right? Whereas if we get hit with duo, it's like, okay, we lose Jinzo. Do I really care that much, you know? Especially with the Call of the Haunted in the deck, too, you know? They don't have either, though, of course, so never punished. We draw duo for turn here, which is nice. I don't think we know anything in hand. We could just fire off the duo and then tribute for Jinzo. Because then if they somehow like book it or something, we do have the Saku. Also, it looks like Panico went back into pure warrior. By the way, we haven't seen any goats or anything. We're going to just go straight up tribute for Jinzo, get him for 24. Sure. And then, yeah, we can hold duo. I think that's probably fine. I mean, I guess what are they saving in hand here, though? I guess at this point in the game, it could be Snatch or Chaos, which would both be pretty tragic. And they didn't play a monster, so it's not like it's just like some random thing they didn't want to normal summon. I guess you probably just duo here. Yeah. And you hit it dead. Shoot, that kind of sucks. But I feel like most of the outs to Jinzo are stuff that they would have held in hand. So duoing here is probably good. And now we pass with lethal on board with Jinzo, which is nice. They set a monster pass. We draw Breaker for a turn, which is insane. So just summon that. Pop a back row and go to town. Hit a dead Saku. Attacking with the Breaker, and then getting with the Jinzo. And that is going to be GG. Wow, okay. So, really, really interesting 3-game set here. What started out as Chaos Turbo versus Warrior turned into Chaos Control versus Goat Control, which then turned into, I guess, Chaos Control versus Warrior in the end. So we got 3 separate matchups with some interesting side deck mind games going on in the 2 games post-side. But when all is said and done, Envoy of Chaos is going to take it down here. Jinzo leading them to victory here in game 3. Some really, really interesting decision points, especially on that Graceful Charity turn. And, I mean, you can kind of see just how good Graceful is with Serpent. They just got so many options. Panico had a really nice back row setup here, right? With Dust, Mirror Force, Solemn, and I guess, what was the last one? Did we know? Oh, the last one was a knock. It was a bluff set knock. So by just like in one turn, basically whittling away their entire back row, when all is said and done, we were up a few cards, and then we're able to kind of win that consolidated scenario. Definitely could have gone either way at different points, depending on what players drew. So I think this is a pretty evenly matched best of 3 overall, just with some slightly better decision making and maybe a little bit better luck here going Envoy of Chaos's way. But they are going to go up to, I believe both players are now 5-3 on the season, so tied up records here. Both players solidly in the positive for War League here through week 9, on to teams likely destined for the playoffs as well. So lots to fight for still for both of these players for the rest of the tournament. Definitely let me know what you guys thought about the decision making and my analysis here down in the comments. Interested to see what you guys have to say, especially about some of those more complex turns. And I will catch you guys all next time.